What if Sanctuary wasn't just a place, but a way of living? Welcome to the Sanctuary Network, your weekly home for conversations that awaken the heart, heal the body, and inspire the spirit. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Popick, the creator of Spirit Fest and the Natural Wellness Expos. For 2 decades, I've been creating spaces, now creating a bold new broadcast for mind, body, and spirit, where seekers, healers, and teachers come together to share wisdom, laughter, and transformation. We've seen what happens when communities gather. People become enlivened. Now, through the Sanctuary Network, that same spirit is reaching you, wherever you are in the world. Each week, we'll sit down with thought leaders, authors, and everyday visionaries. We'll also shine a light on the grassroots voices of the Sanctuary Marketplace, the healers, vendors, and practitioners who make this movement thrive. This isn't just another show, it's your sanctuary, a space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and join me. Together, let's step into the sanctuary. We are live tonight, which is always a special occasion, and we are here with very special guest, one of the nicest people in the world, Anthony Profeta. Welcome. We are fresh off 2 shows, 2 weekends in a row. Anthony was with us 2 weeks ago it was a week and a half ago now, in Punta Gorda, which was amazing.
It was wonderful, really great experience.
Yes,
what you've put together with the Spirit Fests, as bringing people from all the communities together is a very beautiful thing that you've accomplished and that you've built. And the communities love it. Everybody that I talked to, it wasn't their first time. It's like they've been there before and they always want to come back every year. So that's amazing.
It is. And that was definitely our biggest show ever.
Wow.
We had record attendance the first day. We had over 1,000 people come, which was amazing. And it's so beautiful there with that big picture window out overlooking the harbor. It was amazing. But we missed you in Virginia Beach because you're all over the place at the Edgar Cayce Institute that's up there, the ARE.
Yes.
And they had a booth at our show there in Virginia Beach, and they loved it.
Awesome.
So, because I really would like to help promote the Edgar Cayce Center. So that's why I'm really glad that you're so involved with them, because clearly you get it, But anyway, let me give you a proper introduction before we go much further, because we've got so much to talk about tonight. Anthony Profeta is a transformative force in the world of meditation and integrative medicine. He was a medical student, so his path from being a medical student to internationally known and professionally certified meditation maestro, mindfulness expert, singing bowl, and sound specialist has earned him the name the Mozart of sound meditation. And he's nothing short of extraordinary. His expertise stems from over 2 decades of intensive learning and practice. His passion for meditation and spiritual understanding has led him around the world, studying various techniques in monasteries and meditation centers in the U.S., Nepal, Italy, and India. So welcome, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I was surprised to learn that you were once a medical student.
Yeah. I always said I wanted to be a doctor from like a very early age, and then I just sort of had blinders on. But it was, if I'm going to be honest, when I was like 4 years old, I always said I wanted to be a priest. And that was what would come out of my mouth when anyone would ask me when I was like a little kid, what do you want to grow up to be? I think I was tapping into like some past life thing, because what 4-year-old says, they want to be a priest? But anyway, immediately after, hormones hit and your girls and all that, and you understand what a priest has to give up, I went in a little bit of a different direction. But immediately I went from priest to like doctor. There was no, I want to be a baseball player or I want to be a musician. It was literally like that simple. When at a certain point people said, hey, what do you want to be? I just said, I want to be a doctor. So I always had this, I guess you could say, aspiration to be of help and service to people. And then I put blinders on, and throughout school and everything, it was just totally focused on getting into medical school, which I did. And I went to a medical school up in New York City. And while I was there, I became a little bit disenfranchised with some things. I'm not against Western medicine by any means at all, but I think the everyday, day-to-day healthcare needs a little bit of an overhaul, because all the studies are showing now that, and these are studies by Johns Hopkins, Harvard, the American Medical Association, National Institute of Health. They're all showing that now nearly 90% of all doctor and hospital visits worldwide are stress related. Stress is the number one root cause that is taking you into in to see your doctor or a hospital visit. And sadly, the way we're instructed and taught, we're not helping the patients really get to the root cause of what the illness is. We're typically just treating symptoms. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to really help people get to the root cause so that I can really help them on their journey to self-healing. I didn't just want to put a Band-Aid over the problem or kick the can down the road that, if I don't get to the stressor and I just mask the symptom, then, the stressor later on will say, well, now I need to go make a new avenue of expression. Now they're coming back to me with some other symptom that's due to the stressor that now is bringing that symptom about in another place. So I began to take a much more holistic turn because I understood how much my meditation practices and my mindfulness practices were already helping me through very stressful times in my life. So I said, I'm going to start focusing more heavily on stress management practices and relaxation responses and all these sort of things so that I can really assist people in their journey to self-healing, as well as help them to discover that there's a part of themselves and a part of reality that is just beyond the physical nature. So I began to take a much more holistic turn.
So you are a good Catholic boy as well. Do you still go to church?
My church, I'll go to church if people invite me. I will go to the churches with them. Do I go to a physical, organized building regularly? No. But my churches are the woods, the ocean, the outside in nature. That's when I feel very connected. I still call it God. I know there's some people out there that are a little bit triggered by that word. They'll call it the universe or spirit or consciousness or whatever. I don't care what label people put on that. But I feel the closest to that source, to that energy, when I'm out in creation itself. Dante once said that nature is the handwriting of God, and I totally agree with that statement. Yeah.
I was thinking more along the terms of the Catholic Church because I was raised Catholic. And I once said, and I do mean this tongue in cheek, that I didn't turn my back on the Catholic Church. I just turned towards the light, and the church happened to be behind me. But
I like that. I like that a lot.
I do feel just a sense of peace and real closeness to divinity when I'm in church, honestly.
Yeah.
But that was, and I've discussed this in other shows, one of my first supernatural experiences was being in church and realizing I was 7 years old. This was not at all what Jesus had in mind.
Right.
He did not want us to worship him ever. He just wanted us to be like him.
Yes.
But still, I do feel, a connection. And I'm half Ukrainian, and Ukraine, the church is almost more of a, their heritage than it is religion. It's really a part of them.
It's part of their lifestyle. Yes, people in that area of the world, many, it's not like just separate from life. It is part of life.
But we're going to be talking about your book about St. Francis of Assisi too, which, and again, I think more commonly known through the Catholic Church because he's a saint. But anyway, I digress. I wanted to go back to talking about stress. Okay. Because I was looking, I remember it was or like a dentist, what do you call it? The
orthodontist?
Guys with root canals, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that 80% of his female patients are on antidepressants.
Oh, wow.
And that's what he sees, that they're really just being over medicated, and he doesn't really know what to do about it, but it's affecting his care for them. And do you think that stress levels have gotten worse since the pandemic, or is it just now becoming more talked about?
I definitely believe it's gotten worse, but in some cases, I don't even think, if I'm going to give you my complete honesty, I don't think that we've even seen the peak of it yet. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen very young children who went through the pandemic where they were basically being told you had to be afraid of others, you had to be afraid to go near others, you could get sick. Mm-hmm. In kindergartens up in New York, they had them, not only distancing with 6 feet between each other, but when they were in classrooms, they were sitting in circles and they couldn't leave the circle. Mm-hmm. And so when you're thinking about children at the age of 5, 6, 7 that are very, very impressionable. And now they're being fed with this, that you have to be afraid, have to be afraid, have to be afraid. That is going to begin to affect every part of their life as they begin to move forward in their life. So I think we're going to have more generations coming up behind us who are going to be more stressed, more anxious, more nervous, more fearful than possibly even our generations were. So I do think that anxiety and stress is increasing, definitely.
Because I'm wondering why our nervous systems are just not regulated. And again, I think it's probably been going on a long time. We're just maybe even just labeling it, you know, back in the old days when all women wore girdles and stuff like that, they were just nervous, you know, you know, and it was just sort of the female way or whatever. But it's, you know, I think maybe men just didn't talk about it, whereas more now.
That's a very good point. I mean, men for ages were told that they're not supposed to show their emotions, show their feelings, boys don't cry. And these are all things that are part of the human experience. You can't be human and not have emotions. But men particularly have been told to shut down and suppress those emotions because it's not manly. And I think that caused definitely some problems. I'm not saying, you know, that we should, you know, just give in to every emotion. I believe we should. Emotion just means energy in motion. I believe we need to learn how to allow these energies to pass through the framework of the body. And I think we're learning today, especially with things like you put together, where you have all these types of healers and wellness practitioners who are coming together, where people can come to an event like you put together with Spirit Fest and really have access now to all these different modalities and types of practices that can help them deal with difficult emotions and things, traumas that they might be dealing with. And I think more people are looking outside of traditional medicine for help with that stuff. In fact, you know, I'm been called into hospitals over the past 2-3 years where I'm working with sound in organized regular medical centers, working with cancer patients, people with fibromyalgia, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, all this stuff, because these medical institutions have seen that people are going outside of their traditional, you know, facilities to find stuff. So now they're bringing stuff in to sort of keep their patients within their, you know, household, so that they can say to them, look, we're offering this stuff too. You don't have to go outside of us. You can find it here. And you know, I think that the increasing amount of stress and anxiety in society is causing people to venture out and look for things to help them, because I think they know that they need, you know, now we need to learn how to, you know, deal with the stress. You said the nervous system doesn't seem to sort of like, you know, reset itself, but people have to learn how to reset it. You know,
Yes.
there's practices we can do, and a lot of people don't know what those things are.
Right. Joe Dispenza, I love him. And he talks about how a gazelle can be eating the grass, and then all of a sudden a lion comes up behind him and chases him around. The gazelle gets away, and then he can just go back to eating his lunch. And his heart's not even racing. It's over.
Right.
So it's done. So they don't, you know, so that's what I think about, is what gets in the way, you know, here where we dwell on things. Or with me, it's not up here. I'm having a physical reaction to something, but I know everything is fine. I know I'm not dying.
Right.
And that's what I'm personally trying to kind of overcome.
Sure.
So, and again, I think it just goes back to responses, but helping to calm that down
Right.
through the
And
different meditation, right?
yes, absolutely. But also to the point about the gazelle, I like the analogy. I like it a lot, and it's true that does happen for them. But here's the difference between the human and that deer: is the part of our brain that runs our fight or flight response is called the amygdala. And the amygdala is part of the brain that basically says, you're under stress, I need to dump cortisol, and you go into your system, you need to, you know, fight or flee or whatever it is. You're in your stress response due to the amygdala. Now, the amygdala can't tell the difference between the point when, thousands of years ago, we were hunter-gatherers just like that gazelle, and we were out looking for food, and now that lion or that bear is going to make a meal out of us. When we saw that, the lion, triggers the amygdala. The amygdala says you better fight or flee to get out of here, and then it would shut off just like the gazelle. But in today's world, the amygdala can't tell the difference between the stress of the lion that's going to eat you, the stress of paying your bills, the stress of raising children, the stress of being in a relationship, the stress of sitting in morning traffic. It just basically says you have a stressor, you're under stress, I need to engage. And so for most people, the amygdala is actually running 24/7 in a stress response, and they think it's normal, but it's not. But the gazelle doesn't have to pay bills. The gazelle doesn't sit in morning traffic. So it's easier for them to downregulate. It's not as easy for us. That's why we need to find these practices like meditation, like breath work, like yoga, like prayer, like whatever it is, whatever you have, getting a massage, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you find helpful to get you into that parasympathetic part of your nervous system so you can move into the relaxation response, and you got to find something for that.
Something people have said to me, I feel so tired and I feel like I'm so stressed out, but things are so good. I don't know why. And I said excitement is almost the same. Your body doesn't realize the difference. It's at that heightened state, and that sometimes when you get to a point, it doesn't really know if it's good stress or bad stress.
You bring up an excellent point. In Buddhism, they believe that, there's different ways the body does get stressed. And believe it or not, just as something that's stressful, like an animal making a meal out of you, they believe states like excessive happiness is actually stressful to the nervous system. So we're talking. You might say, well, shouldn't you be happy? Shouldn't I be? Yes, but they're talking like when you're really ecstatic or mania and all this stuff where you're like totally like blissed out. Anything to an extreme in Buddhism is a negative. And so, when the pendulum swings too far in any direction, the body can become stressed by that.
Right. I think about that too, because I know moderation is the key, but I feel like I just came here for I just,
To
having
enjoy.
a really great meal, or just, I don't know how you can really just be that in the middle of the road all the time, personally.
Right. Well, there's a difference between being middle of the road and the way they do interpret it. So from this particular Eastern perspective that we're talking about, their point is to be present to whatever you're with. So if you're in a state, where you're experiencing happiness, they're not saying to you, oh, you should try to cut that down. They're saying be with it, because the only thing that is going to happen is that in terms of the Buddhist philosophy, everything changes. So that happiness isn't going to last forever. So while you're experiencing happiness, really be present to it and really connect to it and feel, so you really know what this feeling is that you're labeling as happiness, and really enjoy it, because the moment could be fleeting. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 2 hours, it could be 2 days. So really try to engage it and be with it and really experience that feeling.
And there's a difference between that and sublimating too.
Oh yes,
that's a whole nother show. But true happiness, finding things that truly bring you joy.
Right.
In the past, following your passion, doing what
Yes.
you love doing, things like that. And like I said, I love food. I love a good meal, but I don't use it as a crutch.
Right.
I
enjoy all those things too.
Yes, exactly. But same with church, and just being that connection to the divine, or being in meditation or being in nature is all the same thing, really.
Right.
Just being present and in that moment. And so let's kind of talk more about resetting the nervous system. So I know the sound, the vibration of the sound actually helps regulate the system, helps regulate the chakras and the energy centers too.
Correct.
What else is going on? I mean, it just seems like it's so your book, we're going to be talking about that, healing the whole person, body,
Yes.
mind, and soul in harmony, is literally about putting all of those parts together.
Correct, and that is being published by the Edgar Casey ARE Press. It's going to be coming out actually in early fall now. It's going to be coming out in October. But that book in particular is a culmination of all my years of study with not only Western medicine, but also Eastern medicine and the Edgar Cayce material. And I believe that if we really want to lead to healing, we can't just look at just the physical part of ourselves, because we're not just physical. We're physical, we're mental, we have this physical body, we have a mental body, and we have a spiritual body. Edgar Cayce called it a triune body, three-part nature, that body, mind, and soul. And so if we really want to bring ourselves to wholeness, then we have to look at each one of those. And in terms of your question about sound, sound is a profound and powerful energy that does affect all of those. As you mentioned, it affects the energetic body, so it affects the energy centers, spiritual centers. There is evidence that the sound waves, when they move, because sound waves won't only move over and around your body. Sound waves, when you're in the presence of singing bowls and stuff like that, they even move directly through your body. And so the sound wave energy is moving through you, and when it moves through you, it begins to stimulate and affect and vibrate different parts of your body, especially the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, which has branches to every major organ system like the heart, the lungs, the digestive system. And so when the vagus nerve is stimulated by listening to the sounds of the singing bowls, your heart rate begins to decrease, your blood pressure begins to decrease, your heart rate variability, which means your resiliency to stress actually increases. And those are all proven. There's over 160 studies on singing bowls. Now, it's not a lot, but it's a very, very good start. And there's a lot of evidence about the benefits that this does bring to our physiology and our physical body in terms of just listening to and being in the presence of sound wave energy. The other thing that it begins to do is it begins to affect the brainwave activity. So it was the University of Toronto. They took 34 people who had never meditated before, and they brought them to a mindful breath awareness class, and they monitored their brain waves as they guided them through breath awareness, where they're inviting them to just pay attention to the body breathe, and when the mind wanders, come back to the breath. And what they discovered was that on average, it took the group about 22 minutes for their brain waves to move out of your beta, which is your conscious mind, word mind, analytical mind, and into the more relaxed or meditative states of alpha and theta. That's actually why many meditation teachers tell you should meditate for about 20 to 30 minutes a day. It just typically takes about 20 minutes for the brain to begin to settle down in the body. But when they took the same group a week later to a sound bath, and all they had was them focused on the sounds of the singing bowls, there was a profound difference. The brainwaves of the group shifted out of the beta into the meditative states in just 12 minutes. That's nearly half the amount of time by the presence of this energy that they were listening to and passing over around and through their body. The scientific term is entrained. Their brainwaves were entrained into the relaxed state quicker. And people began to report that they felt more relaxed afterwards, or it was easier to listen to the sound. So there's a big added benefit of utilizing sound for our mental body, our physical body, our energetic body, and even our our spiritual body. So there's a lot of evidence now in the benefit of that. And I also think that's why if I have a class, a sound bath, and that's the majority of the type of work I'm doing now is with the sound-based therapy. But if I do that sort of class, my classes are typically sold out, or they're full, or large groups are coming to that. If it was come sit in silence with Anthony for a half hour, there's like 3 people there. And I think it's because they can really feel the difference and the power of the singing bowls than they do trying to sit in silence. Now, I'm a big believer in silence. I think silence is also very profound, and silence is not very silent if you really get down and start to listen to it. But I understand why it's resonating more with people in that way.
I know in medical, like orthopedics, they do percussive or concussive, like the that they're doing on there. And to me, that's sound.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like that the sound therapy like you're doing is about, I don't know, what do you think, 20, 30 years ahead of its time, really?
Oh, yeah.
The doctors
absolutely.
are going to be using it.
Yeah, if we really get into medicine, we've been utilizing sound and sound waves to heal and correct and cure illnesses and diseases in the body for decades. So gallstones and kidney stones, there's a way to heal a person of that illness simply by passing very high ultra high sound waves through their body, through like an ultrasound machine. They're very high vibrational. And it's the same form of energy that's coming out of a singing bowl. A sound wave is a sound wave, just the vibration or frequency is much higher. And when they pass them through the body using the ultrasound machine, in some cases they can literally shake apart the gallstone or the kidney stone, and then the residue can pass through the gall ducts without any surgical intervention at all. And that's all done by sound waves. Now, there's evidence as well now with doctors, and there's a whole growing practice. It's called histotropy, where they're using high-focused sound waves in order to burn up tumors.
Wow.
And so they're incinerating tumors. The tumors basically like bubble up just like boiling water, and they can eradicate tumors out of bodies. Now, they can only do it in certain areas because surrounding tissue will burn as well, but they're using high-focused ultrasound sound waves in order to burn up tumors in hospitals today as well.
I know they also use it on injury, like muscle injury.
Oh, wound healing. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, there's a lot of evidence and multiple studies on the benefits of sound waves and helping a body to heal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's why I feel like that they're going to figure out. And I've also seen really neat things with either the tuning forks or the maybe I've seen it with the metal ones, where they'll, if it's tuned to say your heart chakra, and then they make it vibrate, and then they put it near your heart chakra and it goes out of tune.
Right.
You're going to hold it there until it becomes in tune, and it's now aligned that chakra to that frequency. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when I was studying in India and Nepal, I was studying with a Tibetan monk who, with his metal singing bowl, would use it in that exact way. He'd pass it around the person's body. He could tell where they had an illness or a disease or something going on because the tone of his bowl would begin to change. And then he'd play the bowl in that area until the tone would go back to its resonant frequency and vibration. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, it's really amazing, and there's just a lot to it. And with you having studied all around the world and with other masters, it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
The level that you've got with the meditations and everything. So we're just about to go to break. We've got a couple minutes, but you will be at Spirit Fest Jacksonville.
I will. I'm excited
for it. It's a new location. We used to do it at a real smaller center,
Okay.
but this is a huge venue. It's at the new fairgrounds.
Okay.
And then anybody can find out more information, spiritfestusa.com. Go to the tab for Jacksonville. I don't think your information is updated, but you're doing a sound meditation that is included with admission on Sunday, but there's limited number of seats.
Okay.
So that's where the information will be, to make sure that if you want to go, how we can get you registered. But you will be giving a free talk on Saturday and then demonstrations throughout the weekend. And you're doing sessions too, right, on people?
Yes, I am, and it was very well received at the last one in Punta Gorda, and I was very happy to be able to assist people with some things that they had going on, and they got off the table and said, oh my God, I can't believe that I feel so different. So it's wonderful to see that. That's what feeds me is, that's
right?
my reward.
And that's why I do what I do. So during the break, if people want to find out more about you, AnthonyProfeta.com. You're also on Facebook and Instagram.
I am, Anthony Profeta Meditation. Yep.
Yeah, so people can check that out. So when we come back, we're going to talk more about your new book, Healing the Whole Person, Body, Mind, and Soul in Harmony. And then we're also going to talk about another book that you've written about St. Francis of Assisi.
Thank you.
So anyway, stick with us, everybody. We'll be back in a few minutes. Florida has a great new option for healthy living. Our Natural Health Expos were a hit last year, so 2026 brings more events around Florida. This special event offers health and wellness opportunities for people and pets. High-quality experts in well-being, healing, anti-aging, and natural living. Plus, you'll find speakers, demonstrations, and much more. All details, lists of locations, and discounted admission can be found at naturalwellnessexpo.com. Join us for Spirit Fest, coming soon to a city near you. Spirit Fest is a metaphysical, holistic, and crystal expo featuring an amazing array of vendors, speakers, authors, artists, crystals, healers, psychic readers, and more. Spirit Fest is your chance to explore and connect with others of like mind. Get all details, including our upcoming locations up and down the East Coast, also discounted admission, and more at spiritfestusa.com. Our next event is January 10th and 11th with special guests and special presentations, including psychic explorer, medium Mark Anthony, and also historical researcher, explorer, and author Jim Vieira. More details are coming to our website soon, and we look forward to seeing you at Spirit Fest in 2026. Everyone, welcome back to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. I am here with our special guest, meditation teacher, meditation expert, sound teacher, sound healing master, Anthony Profeta. We have been talking about the nervous system, about regulating the nervous system through sound, the effects that it has on it. We're discussing his book, Healing the Whole Person, Body, Mind, and Soul in Harmony, that he is having published by the Edgar Cayce. Is it Institute, the ARE?
Yes, the ARE. Yeah. That stands for the Association for Research and Enlightenment.
When we were in Virginia Beach, they had a booth at our show, and because they're doing a lot of really awesome workshops coming up, and tours to Egypt, all kinds of places, and to his hometown, because I want to say it's almost the anniversary of his death, maybe, or his birth, one or the other.
Yeah, he was born in March in 1877, and he died in 1945.
Okay, there was some anniversary to it. Anyway, I said when they checked in, I said, I really want to help get the word out about what you do, because his teachings were unadulterated. It was way before the internet or anything.
Oh, yeah.
And the health information that it is in that, there's just nothing like it now. And a lot of mediums and psychics are afraid to give health information because, of liability and things like that. And still, it's tried and true. It just doesn't change. Right. And I said, it drives me crazy to meet these young kids who don't know who Edgar Cayce is. And this one, she was an older lady, and she shot back, well, it drives us crazy that we meet older people who've lived here their whole lives who don't know who Edgar Cayce is.
Oh, yeah.
So they've got their work cut out for them. They're even in Virginia Beach. But so if you are a member of the ARE, and I'll get that website. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. You can search his readings, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of it. Anything from Atlantis to past lives, to the health things. Castor oil, he was really big on that.
Oh, yeah.
The castor oil packs that he was using for the healings. Have you ever used those in conjunction with any of the sound healing that you've done? I just wondered if that would make a difference.
Oh, I guarantee it will make a difference. I've invited people to utilize a lot of his suggestions and practices on their own, but I've never done it in conjunction with, I shouldn't say that. I haven't had a patient doing a castor oil pack while I'm playing a sound bath, but there was someone that I was working with who was doing castor oil packs and coming for sound sessions at the same time. And they had very good results from, that combination. But, that was only one case, one person that I know of off the top of my head. But his work is fascinating. And like you just said, so many people still don't know. He's the most documented psychic in history. He's did over 14,000 readings. He remembered nothing when he was under his hypnotic state. And he had a secretary that would write everything down. And 70% of his readings were health readings, and he became known as the father of holistic medicine for that reason, because he was prescribing changes in diet and exercise and castor oil packs and colonics and all of this sort of stuff that today, we don't really maybe utilize as much as we should. But back in the day, these were practices that were pretty well known, and he brought a lot of it to light, and he had some amazing things happen from the patients that he recommended this stuff to. But as you also said, some of the interesting stuff was when he would say that the person is dealing with this illness because in their past life
Mhm.
they did such and such, and now they're dealing with it in this lifetime. And you got to remember, he was born in Bible Belt, Kentucky, where
Mhm.
this stuff, he didn't have access to the internet, he didn't have access to Barnes and Noble and bookstores, but all of this Eastern wisdom sort of stuff began to come through him. And I don't think that they even knew what they were opening once they really began to ask him some very interesting questions, because people began to ask him about spiritual things and many other sort of stuff about life, past civilizations, and all of this. And a lot of very, very profound and information came through him.
Right. It's edgarcayce.org.
.org.
And Casey, Cayce, but if you haven't researched his work or really read about him, he really is amazing.
Yes.
And again, that's just true information, or it's just solid, basic, as I said, unadulterated information that's out there.
Yeah.
Because these days, if it's on YouTube, it must be true.
Right. And the thing is about the way the readings are set up, if you go and access the archive library via the website, you can just type in, like, what did Edgar Cayce say about arthritis or
Mhm.
back pain or sciatica or kidney stones and whatever, and they'll pull up all of the readings for that, and you can see what he diagnosed. Now, in some cases, he did tell different things to different patients because each body is unique and individual. So I might have told somebody to take something, but then someone who was dealing with the same illness, he told them to do a little bit of something else because they needed to get their body aligned in a different way than maybe somebody else did.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole other thing too, is that what works for one person might not work for nine
For
other
another.
people too.
Right.
Our bodies are so individual and so specialized. That's really important, is to just, a doctor can give you a pill, but it might,
Right.
or may not work. And that's what everybody's looking for. You said, they don't want to try a lot of this traditional stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they would rather do, is take a pill and put all of their faith in Western medicine, which sometimes I feel like makes people sicker. That's my
Oh,
perspective.
I'm on your team with that one. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I've worked in the hospitals and I've been in situations where somebody was given a medication, and sometimes it's just something where maybe they had just an allergic reaction. Fine, that's doable. Stop the medication. We can help you fix that. But I've seen some certain medications give people other types of illnesses or other problems that were pretty severe. And
Hmm.
so, I understand maybe wanting the pill to get it over and done with quick, and sometimes
Hmm.
the more holistic route might take months before you see some
Right.
sort of improvement. But in many cases, the modern pharmaceutical industries, many of those uh, pills have other side effects that sometimes come along that are sometimes even
Right.
worse than what we're dealing with.
Yeah, when I hear some of the side effects, might grow a leathery tail. I mean, it just
Yeah,
blows my mind that people would not question this. But
right.
why are we having television commercials about drugs anyway?
And the commercials have nothing to do with what the drug is for. They're
Right?
not even showing. It's like two people out having dinner, and they're talking about some weird illness that they have, and it doesn't make sense. And the I saw one. They've taken this drug off the market. This was at least probably 15 years ago. But one of the side effects was you lose your identity. You basically forget who you are, and I mean, like, who? Why would you even chance that? I
Wow.
mean,
Well, I don't get it either, but I understand people can be really sick, and I
yeah.
definitely do not recommend people ignore Western medicine.
No, no, no.
I had a case, and I don't remember if I told you, I've told this story before, so again, won't get into the whole thing, where my gallbladder, I was very, very, very sick, and no one knew what was wrong with me. So, of course, when we were going to the shows and I was, consulting with the healers, and they were doing major healings on me. And when it finally became known that my gallbladder had just died, but they
Oh,
almost couldn't remove it because there was so much scar tissue on it, because that's what was happening. It was healing up, and then it was getting infected again, and then healing up. And then that was one example of how, because we don't exactly know what we're doing, we're healing it, we're doing that.
yeah,
But it took them a while to figure out what it was. So that's why I tell them, please don't. And especially if you've got cancer or
Right.
something like that, that definitely consult the doctor and work with them on you might need to change doctors a few times to find somebody that,
Yes.
wants
That
to be,
aligns with you.
yeah, go
Yeah.
in along the lines that you do. But, um, so the Western medicine definitely has its place, but do your research and do your due diligence.
Yes, and I'm a firm believer in second and third opinions, but don't just take one doctor's word for certain things at times. But I'm not against Western medicine either. Remember, I said coming in with that I just believe the everyday healthcare needs a little bit of an overhaul. But we have the best
Yeah.
emergency medicine physicians and surgeons and trauma surgeons in the world in our country. And
Right.
there's some cases where you're going to need their help. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's certain instances where medications are necessary. Healing can come through a medication as well.
Right.
But to your point, I think you said it was a dentist. There's been numerous articles on this that we are the most overprescribed country in the world with certain pills and medications, and there's certain things that we could do to alleviate that.
Right, I agree. And I do think that that they kind of rush to the antidepressants and
Yes.
or any of those different things too. But if you're really having a hard time, I don't think it's a bad thing
No.
to maybe just do something to kind of, take the edge off, so
Edge
to
off.
speak.
Yeah.
So, but again, then that's when we reach out to because I personally have experienced a lot of people that were having metabolic imbalances, and that's when you start looking at the different vitamins
Mm-hmm.
and minerals and stuff like the glutathione now and all the
Yeah.
different things. I personally have had really good response from Young Living, that Ninja Red
Okay.
with the wolfberries, but not everybody's body is the same.
Right.
And that's where you can try those things. And admittedly, it's not cheap, but it's, a good way to find supplementation to be able to find out what it is that why you're experiencing those symptoms. It may be a life event, it may be something a little bit more long term. And then that's what you just find out what works for you. So, what would you recommend for people that can come to the sound meditations and things like that? But what about in between? What can people do in between events?
Just as we said a moment ago that everybody is different, I always advise people to check out things and practices that they can work at home, whether it just be a mindfulness meditation practice or, a breath work or listening to something, or if it's something, prayer or yoga, whatever it might be, something that they could do on their own that they don't need, because when they're coming to listen to a sound bath, it's me with a bunch of bowls. So they can listen to it through a recording, but there is a big difference being in it, in the presence of it. So they might not have a opportunity to do that every single day, but they got to
Hmm.
find something that resonates with their particular personality. Some people might really love to do a little bit of Tai Chi at home, while somebody else might prefer to just sit and do a little bit of breath work. But
Hmm.
whatever someone resonates with, whatever their type of personality is that they find that can be helpful, we have to find these modalities or these activities that can help us to move into that parasympathetic part of our nervous system, that could turn off the stress response, move us into the relaxation response, because we're really the only ones that can do that for ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anything that they can find, there are thousands of things that are out there. It could be something as simple as finding a mindful coloring book. If someone likes art,
Hmm.
just go out and find a mindful coloring book and just work with that throughout your day. Maybe, a little bit here, a little bit there. Just doing something to get
Hmm.
yourself to focus on something or relax or whatever it might be.
Right.
But there are a lot of avenues that people can look into.
Is there any musicians you particularly like or music that you listen to?
Oh, I listen to everything. I listen to everything from like classical. I played the piano, and so I was taught as a young child how to play, and so I grew up, you know, learning about Chopin and Beethoven and Mozart. So I listen to them frequently. But I also am a lover of everything in between, from like, easy listening and big bands and classic rock and
Hmm.
um, all the way up.
Hmm.
There's nothing I don't listen to. So what I listen to typically depends on my mood, whatever I want to get into. But if I'm looking to relax, It's usually like a more of a classic rock, classical type of music.
What about more spiritual based music?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of stuff like that, like Deva Premal and
Mm,
uh, a bunch of others. But now that you're bringing this to my attention, Edgar Casey, he in his readings recommended music and sounds and frequencies and instruments a lot. So he actually said that wind and stringed instruments will help people who are dealing with nervous disorders like depression and anxiety and
mm,
bring them back to a state of normalcy if they begin to listen to wind and stringed instruments. He
hmm
said it resonates with us because our body is a wind and stringed instrument. The strings are
hmm
our vocal cords. The wind is the lungs and the air that comes out of the lungs. So we resonate with wind and stringed instruments, and they've been utilized in history for ages. The Egyptians had lyres and harps, and the Greeks even and the Romans used to paint people playing lyres and harps on like their vases and their pottery and stuff.
hmm
But he recommended three songs. He actually said Pachelbel's Canon,
hmm
the Blue Danube, and the Spring Song by Vivaldi, those three
hmm
pieces of classical music, he
hmm
said that the composers were in such a spiritual state when they were writing these that it
hmm
transcended into the piece itself. And that if you would listen to them, you can begin to get into a state of better alignment, relaxation. He actually said Pachelbel's Canon would align all the energy centers of the body.
That's a beautiful piece. Canon in
Uh,
D. I think that's
Yeah,
what you
canon
said.
and D.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use that in weddings and everything. And I think
Uh-huh.
that's a beautiful thing. Whether they know that or not, I don't know. But
It's too short. That's my
it
only
is.
my only the only thing I don't like about it. But yeah, Beethoven, Vivaldi, love
Yeah.
Vivaldi.
Yeah.
And then you talked about David Pramal, and then I know that there's other. If you go to YouTube, it'll give you a lot of suggestions, or
Yes.
whatever Spotify or whatever you're on
Right,
to,
right. Yeah.
when you're on
Satnam
that.
Carr is another one. Trevor Hall's another one. There's a
Mhm.
lot of, yeah.
But that's something else that if people don't know where to start, if they just kind of want to get into the zone,
Right.
you can just find, whatever kind of just takes you out of space and time a little bit. I don't know if you've ever heard the Beatles. No, it was Cirque du Soleil did a
Okay.
show about the Beatles, and it was called Love.
I saw it once and I took my son to see it before they got rid of it. So it's no longer in, they closed the Mirage. And so they destroyed the Mirage and that's where it was.
The soundtrack of it, highly recommend.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get it somewhere.
Oh, yeah. You can still get that. Yes.
But the pieces were all reimagined, and it
Yep.
was also really super high vibe.
The Beatles went through a very spiritual period in their journey.
Mhm.
And I mean, they went over to India and were studying transcendental meditation for a long period of time, or a period of time. But when their most productive and creative period was when they were on the ashram. They wrote more pieces of music and songs there, and
Mhm.
most of it ended up being on the White Album and Let It Be in Abbey Road.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm. Oh yeah, think about how different it was from, Help Me,
right.
and the other music from where they first started. That was a true evolution. Also, my complaint with them is just they were too short. I
Yeah,
wish that they could have stayed together longer.
yeah,
But I think their individuality just kind of played into that, and they had other things to do. So,
I agree. Yeah.
but yes, their music obviously it's just unparalleled.
Yes.
But that's what I was just trying to think of too, is other things, the breathing meditation, that box, what is it?
Box breath. A very simple practice to short circuit your stress response and move you into the relaxation response is to breathe in for a particular count. Now everybody has a different, breath capacity. So let's say you breathe in for 3 or you breathe in for 6. Whatever you count, you breathe in for. If you just exhale out double or longer, you'll
Hmm
begin to short circuit your nervous system out of the stress response and into the relaxation response with just a couple of minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes of that type of breathing.
hmm Right. That's another thing. It's good if you're in a stressful situation. It's also good before bed.
Yeah,
I
excellent.
think I think people can do, but again, going to the sound meditations where people can experience that, and then your body does hold the memory too.
Yes.
You can kind of take yourself back and remember being in that state, which is also particularly helpful. We talked before about past lives, about
Hmm.
some of the illness, and without going into too much detail, somebody, when I was in Virginia Beach, somebody said something about that was in your other life, but they met earlier in my life. For 5 years, I was married to a fighter pilot. I was a stepmother to three children. I had a new baby, and I was a traditional housewife. And realized really early that was not my passion and joy to be a traditional housewife by any stretch of the imagination. And I loved taking care of people, but staying at home all day was very, a bit frustrating. And then quickly realized I married the wrong person. But that's a whole other conversation as well. But then
Okay.
I thought, if we can do past life work where are, we can forgive whatever we did in a past life because that's not us now.
Right.
I think like in a past life, if I found out that I was somebody who hurt animals or something like that, that would be really hard for me to deal with. But anything else, I can forgive myself. I can move on. I can try to look for the karmic lessons and things like that in it. But when it's my life now, why is it so much harder to kind of let that stuff go? But it's really the same thing.
Yeah.
We could get into all time is actually taking place at once anyway. And I feel like that what we do in this life affects other lives. What's
I
your what's your stance on how explain that?
explain that. That's a big explanation. Because of my understanding of the science and a little bit of quantum physics and all this sort of stuff, I've grown into the understanding that the possibility that all lives are happening at once might really be might be true.
Hmm.
Like these parallel universe types of things and everything. Because, there's really nothing other than this present moment when we think about what time really is.
Right.
And so, I do believe that there is a possibility that what we are doing now might actually affect things in other parallel universes, or what we're doing now might affect us in maybe our future lifetime as well, because certain seeds will get carried over. That from the East, we have a little bit of a different understanding of this word, but in the Eastern traditions, they call karma what might ripen for you in another lifetime, or what was ripening for you now in this lifetime might be karma from the past. But a
Hmm.
lot of people look at karma in the West, and by that I mean the United States and also some European countries. They look at karma as like your punishment, like what you're going to get.
Hmm.
But in the East, that's not actually what the word karma means. Karma means action. Karma is actually what you do. And so they believe that what you do has an effect. And what you're actually getting back is the ripening of your karma. So what you're sending out comes
Hmm.
back to you. You reap what you sow. And so
Right.
I definitely believe that what we do in this life through our words, thoughts, and our deeds has a ripple effect out. Now, how far out that goes, is it just this world, or is it through the entire universe, or into multiple parallel universes?
Hmm.
I don't have the depth of knowledge to explain that, but I definitely believe that ripples go out from us, and how far
Right.
that goes,
Right.
only God knows.
So if we can regulate our nervous system so that
Hmm.
we're not as reactive to things, that would give us the space too to be able to look at other things that may be holding us back, that we may be, you know, a lot of trauma is buried, or even just negative experiences are buried.
Yes.
Yet some people those are easier to remember for some reason. The negative experiences, whereas the joyful experiences, some of them, even the small ones, might be harder to remember.
Well,
Um,
there is a scientific evidence on why that is the case.
mhm.
So the scientific research on why negative things are easier to remember is because we're trying to keep ourselves from the negative. We're trying to keep ourselves from danger. We're trying to keep ourselves from what might hurt us. So
Mhm.
when we have the psychology and scientific research says that the mind has a negative bias, means it's
Mhm.
looking for the negative, it's focusing on the negative, so that when it happens, it says, oh, I never want to do that or experience that again.
Mhm.
So the mind does have this sort of negative predisposition of remembering maybe the negative a little bit more than the positive, which is in some ways sad. But we can rewire our
Right.
brains. We can.
Right. But I was just thinking, if we can get ourselves to that place where we can start to really look at past lives
Yes.
or, you know, us in other, seasons of our life or things like that, that kind of would be punting in a way. Because if we can heal something from our past in this lifetime and it could potentially change other lifetimes, how multi-layered that is and how effective that is.
Yes.
So there's really something to that. So it's not just regulating the system, it's being able to go within. And that's part of what I feel like that the meditation and the sound is enabling us to do, is because you really need to go deep to be able to do this.
Yes, you're
Starting is
absolutely.
the hardest part.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a lot of people are sometimes afraid to go deep within because of the stuff that we do have pushed down there and things like that. But you're spot on in regards to when we can learn how to, as you said, not be as reactive. When we are present, there's begins to be a time like this. It's weird to explain, but there's like this time delay between what the universe begins to present to you and you going, oh, I see that, how do I want to respond to this? And
Hmm.
so rather than reacting out of habits and patterns that have been ingrained in us, we learn how to respond and we begin to live more in the present moment, in the only reality that truly exists. And we can begin to see things about ourselves and the way maybe we've been conditioned into in past patterns and how those might not be as positive in moving us forward through life or might be hindering us in our life now. And past lives, I was trained as a past life regressionist through the Edgar Casey ARE as well. So
Oh.
I do past life regressions. And they can be very helpful because they can help us to put puzzle pieces together and see maybe, oh, this is happening because of this. But
Uh-huh.
sometimes people get a little bit too stuck and too focused on what happened in the past. And then they begin to not be as aware of what's happening in this present life, which I think is actually much more important.
I'm going to put a pin in that right there. And when we come back from the break, I would like to talk about the pros and cons of studying our past lives.
Sure.
So again, you are going to be at Spirit Fest in Jacksonville coming
I
up
am.
August 8th and 9th. So it's just
Yep.
2.5 weeks from now. At the new fairgrounds there, excited to be in the new larger location. You're going to be giving a free talk Saturday and a free sound meditation workshop on Sunday
Very
morning,
excited.
first thing, 10 a.m., doors open. But if you'd like to know more about Anthony, and you've got a lot of stuff coming up, I want to talk about that, 2 trips.
Yep.
AnthonyProfeta.com. People
Thank
can
you.
check that out and all you've got going on. And then if anybody would like to know more information about Spirit Fest Jacksonville, it's going to go to spiritfestusa.com and look for the Jacksonville tab. And both of us are on Facebook and Instagram too, under the same names. So we're really easy to find. But there's just tons of information out there online and everything. So thank you everybody for sticking with us, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Florida has a great new option for healthy living. Our Natural Health Expos were a hit last year, so 2026 brings more events around Florida. This special event offers health and wellness opportunities for people and pets. High quality experts in well-being, healing, anti-aging, and natural living. Plus, you'll find speakers, demonstrations, and much more. All details, lists of locations, and discounted admission can be found at naturalwellnessexpo.com. Join us for Spirit Fest, coming soon to a city near you. Spirit Fest is a metaphysical, holistic, and crystal expo featuring an amazing array of vendors, speakers, authors, artists, crystals, healers, psychic readers, and more. Spirit Fest is your chance to explore and connect with others of like mind. Get all details, including our upcoming locations up and down the East Coast, also discounted admission, and more at spiritfestusa.com. Our next event is January 10th and 11th with special guests and special presentations, including psychic explorer, medium Mark Anthony, and also historical researcher, explorer, and author Jim Vieira. More details are coming to our website soon, and we look forward to seeing you at Spirit Fest in 2026. And welcome back to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. We are having a great conversation with Anthony Profeta. We are getting into everything. We mostly circled around his book, Healing the Whole Person, Body, Mind, and Soul in Harmony, because he is a meditation teacher and expert, and he is really well versed in sound healing, traveled the world, learned from masters. But we're talking about, and mind, body, spirit is a term that's very often used, but truly incorporating all of these different works into making us whole, as you said. But we were talking about past life.
Yeah.
So you were saying that you're a past life regressionist,
Right.
and that sometimes that there might be pros and cons to learning our past lives. So when I felt like when I was young, like 12, that was kind of when I really started really getting into, because then I could go to the bookstore and buy books, and things like
Yeah.
that. That was when I went to my first psychic fair in Syracuse, New York, and that's why I do shows now, is because I
Wow.
remember it was just like finding the mothership, just being able to talk to other people, because there was no internet then, and
Right.
my mom had to drive me to the bookstore, and may or may not love my choice of reading material, but it just to be able to find community was so important. But I was trying to find people that would help me learn my past lives, and some people would
Wow.
say to me, "Why do you want to know so bad?"
Right.
And I told them I felt like that when I packed my bags to come into this lifetime, I packed 6 suitcases. But when I got here, only 5 suitcases came off the conveyor belt. And whatever was in that 6 suitcase was really important. I just can't remember what it's in it.
Wow.
And that's just how I felt. And then that led me, once I kind of got into it a little bit more, and then that study of reincarnation. I told you I was studied with Dr. Walter Simcoe, who wrote The Return of the Revolutionaries, who found that there was 10 points if somebody is reincarnated from one lifetime to another, that they may have things in common.
Okay.
And he was able to do this by identifying people that were alive today that were around the time of the revolution. So they might be actors or politicians now. I think we talked about this. John Kerry
Oh,
was one.
we
Yeah.
did. We talked about this at the first dinner we had. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember now.
John
Yeah.
Kerry being the reincarnation of Andrew Jackson. And if you look
Yeah.
at them, you'll see the similarities. So you don't always look alike. And sometimes you might be a completely different soul aspect, and there might be very few commonalities, but there is always some overlap. And then some you looked identical, some are very close. And
Right.
then your soul group usually travels with you too.
Yeah.
But then when I started to learn about my past lives, I learned some of the commonalities. I planned temple celebrations at the time of Hatshepsut, and some of this was from my own memories. Some of this was through Kevin Ryerson or other people who can do Akashic Records readings,
Wow.
which is basically just a record that's out there and they can tap into it. Um, and I think they can tap into our future lives too. But again, another conversation. But then I was greatly involved in the library at Alexandria, which was not just a library. It was a zoo. It was a botanical garden. It was a bunch of different things in the planning. And then I was a priest in several lives of religious figures too,
Wow.
so that's why I felt like that it was really important. Maybe when I was younger, maybe it wasn't time to know, but again, I think that there are people that think that they just want to find out that they were somebody famous,
Right.
or that they, want something to kind of glab onto, but they need to be able to tie it in, because if you were a king or queen in one lifetime, you may have died in jail in another, or
Right.
maybe both at the same time. You never know. And that we need to kind of be prepared for that, because but that's it. If you're ready, I think the teacher will come. But doing the regressions would be amazing. To
Yeah.
be people to be able to come to that on their own.
Yes, I've seen some powerful breakthroughs with regressions, and sometimes they can become very, very powerful experiences for people to move forward and grow. I can share a story with you in regards to somebody who had a regression, in which they came to the regression because they were trying to figure out why they had a very unsettling feeling whenever they were around their sister. There was no reason for it. The sister was very kind, was very nice, was very loving, part of the family, and she was good to everybody. But whenever this gentleman was around his sister, he felt like he couldn't trust her. He did a regression, and when he walked through the door, he saw himself as a very young boy, about 8 or 9, and as he was looking around, I was asking him, do you get a sense that you're in any place or anywhere? And when he was looking around, he supposedly saw that he was in like a monastery or a church. And when he turned around, he saw that his parents were standing behind him and they were giving him up to the church. Mm-hmm. And he said that it was happening in Ireland during a time of the famine, and the parents had multiple children, and they thought that by giving this child to the church would educate him, feed him, and that he would have a better life than what they can provide for him. But the little 8-year-old boy didn't understand that. When he looked in his mother's eyes, it was his sister in this lifetime. Oh. And so it allowed him to heal that feeling, and he ended up having a much easier and wonderful ability to communicate and talk to her, and not experience that I can't trust her whenever he was around her. He understood the root cause of where that came from, and it evaporated. So there's things like that that can happen that can help to move us forward. But I have also had instances where people got so hung up on their past life that that's all they began to care about was the past, and they weren't taking what they were learning from the past and implementing it for the life they were in now. And they were too attached to what happened prior, and and they got sort of like, I would call it maybe stuck there.
Yeah, no, I've encountered that as well. And same thing with the reincarnation group too. And a lot of times people think that they were Mary Queen of Scots, where really they may have been in her court.
Right.
Or they may have known her, but then that's what comes through.
Right.
So that's why it's really good to work with a trained professional that can kind of guide you
Yes.
through some of those things.
You're absolutely right. I've had a bunch of people, or at least a handful of people, come and they literally thought that they were Mary Magdalene in a past life. But then when she came to the past life, she found out that what she was actually tapping into was that Mary Magdalene was like one of her guides. It wasn't her, but it was a guide who was trying to communicate with her.
That makes sense too. And a lot of people don't know that the information might be given to them in a subtle or kind of a veiled way, because it would blow people's mind, I think, to just outwardly, oh, who's your guide? Oh, Jesus or something. That that's a lot to handle, and that may have been the way to kind of convey that. So that's interesting.
Right.
And you said that when you do your regressions that sometimes you do work with the sound.
Correct. I don't only do private past life regressions, but I also do group regressions. And so when you're doing a regression, there's two parts to it. There's the induction, where you're trying to get the person into the more subconscious states, the alpha and theta, and out of their, conscious mind. And then there's the regression part. And on a private session, I could talk to the person, like as I'm moving through in the induction part, trying to get them relaxed, like on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being very awake, 10 being very deep, what number comes to mind. I can't do that in a group. So what I do in the group is I've utilized for the induction the singing bowls. So I'm doing the singing bowls with guidance, so that, remember the study that I shared earlier, the singing bowls was moving people into the subconscious meditative alpha theta state quicker. So by incorporating that into the induction, I'm trying to guarantee that maybe I'm getting the majority into that state, so that they can have the experience when they step through the door and we go into the actual regression part of it. So I've incorporated the singing bowls into my group regressions to help with that.
That's fantastic. Maybe we could do that at one of the shows.
Oh, that would be cool.
Coming up. So, okay, put that on our list.
That's a great idea.
Let's talk about your other book, if we can, about Saint Francis of Assisi. So he was the one who was so kind to animals. It was just a loving, kind spirit. And this is the 800, say that 10 times. the 800th anniversary of
Anniversary.
his death. And
Yeah,
he transformed the world through love. And
absolutely. Yes.
how would you think someone like him would feel today when all that we've got to contend with,
That's
you know,
Yeah, that's a good question.
hmm
I think he'd be very similar to the way he was at his time, because
hmm
medieval Italy also wasn't a very easy place to live in. The
hmm
this it was a, it wasn't a, Italy wasn't a country at the time. It was city states. They were always warring with each other. In fact,
hmm
St. Francis was raised in a very wealthy family, and when he was young, his dream was to be a knight, and he went out to fight for Assisi, which was the town he was from.
hmm
And he had a very, very life changing experience out on the battlefield. And Assisi lost, and he was thrown in prison. And the only reason why they spared his life was because he was dressed very well. So they thought that they could ransom him. So they thought that, okay, if this guy's dressed so well, he must come from a good family. We'll throw him in prison and see if we could get some money for this guy. But what he saw was hand-to-hand combat, people being slaughtered, heads chopped off, blood all over.
Uh-huh.
That's not something that many people see today.
Yeah.
And so he was experiencing a world that might have been even more difficult than maybe the world that we're presently in, even though there's a lot of divisiveness and challenges and difficulties. But
hmm
I think he would still approach it with his radical love. I mean,
Right.
it was for him, it was the most powerful force that we can bring into this world. It allowed him to do many things that he started a movement without an internet, without social media. He didn't have a Facebook page, St. Francis of Assisi, promoting his message.
hmm
He lived a life that caused that his life rippled through Europe, where people from France and Portugal and Spain flocked to Italy to become a Franciscan,
Wow.
to live the life that he lived. He was calling people from all over Europe, and he wasn't even doing it. He was just living his life of love that had moved people. It was the largest spiritual movement in the Catholic Church ever.
Wow.
He's considered the second Christ, the alter Christus, because he modeled his life after Jesus. Jesus was his model and his mentor. And
hmm
he tried to live a life as true to what Jesus asked us to do as one possibly could. And
hmm
when right before he died, he received the stigmata, which are the wounds of Christ. He's the very first person to ever be recorded as having the wounds of Christ. So he's the very first stigmatist. And
hmm
so, but he never shared that. He always hid it. And the monks who, or the brothers, I should say, after he died, they made it known and they showed the wounds and all that. But he had a very, very powerful impact. I think the Franciscans till today is the largest group of any Catholic movement
hmm
in their organized church. And
hmm
so, yes, he died in 1226. And so this year is the 800th anniversary of his passing. And Italy has been doing things for the entire year so far. Ever since January of 2026, this has been the year of St. Francis, where they're having festivities and all of that. But on October 4th, which is his feast day, it will be the biggest culmination for all of it. Italy has re-added the feast of St. Francis's feast day as now a national holiday again, where they moved away from that many years ago. But
hmm
because St. Francis is the patron saint of Italy, they've reinstituted that it will be a national holiday this year. And so I've been working on this book for many years. I thought I would be finished with it a little bit sooner, but it came together as it should when it should. And so it's going to be
hmm
released on September 1st.
Oh, good. Okay. And is the ARE doing that one as well?
No, the Infinite Love Publishing is releasing that one. The ARE Press really only releases things when a majority of the work is attributed to the Edgar Casey reading. So there has to be a
Oh,
certain
okay.
percentage of, yeah.
Okay. Where will we be able to find that book when it comes out?
Everywhere. Amazon, all major bookstores. I'll have a link for it on my website and social media as well, but you can get it hardcover, so paperback, ebook. It'll be in all versions as well.
The title Radical Love, the Revolutionary Spirituality of Francis of Assisi.
Yeah, and it's showing how his what he asked us to do is pretty simple. I mean, he it's not easy all the time, but it's pretty simple. And I mean, one of the things that's attributed to him to what he said to his monks and his brothers, and there was even a female Franciscan movement called the Poor Clares, who was started by Clare of Assisi. But he said to them, when you go out, every day preach the gospel, but only when necessary use your words, which meant show them through how you live.
Right.
Live this. Show them what a life of love really looks like. And so each chapter is set up with, the first chapter is a little bit of a background of who St. Francis was, in case a reader might not be too familiar with where he came from and, his lifestyle. Some people, of course, see his statues in gardens or with the bird feeder and stuff like that because
Right.
he preached to the birds and he was a great lover of animals. But there's a depth to St. Francis that many people really don't know. He renounced everything. He came from a very wealthy family and he gave it all up, just like the Buddha. And so they have a very, very similar paths in what they did and renounced everything for something greater. And then each chapter gives you like an action step. So, Francis made God the forefront of his life, the priority, like seek first the kingdom of God and all things will be added to you. Lived simply. Doesn't mean we should give up everything, but it just means don't be possessed by your possessions. Be joyful. Let love lead the way. And so each chapter not only talks about a part of St. Francis's spirituality, but it also gives you a meditation and some practices that you can do to incorporate these things into your own life. I also shared stories about my own life and how, I've switched and learned how to do things in certain ways by, studying the life of St. Francis.
Yeah, he was about peace.
He was.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
People seem to think Jesus is going to come back. And then, and as I say, and get rid of all the people they don't like. But I think if Jesus were to walk into a room today, yeah, I've even said this about church. If we were in church and Jesus walked in, how many people wouldn't even believe it was him?
Oh, right.
Now the way that we are, I just think I don't know what it would take for a master truly to be accepted or to be understood, but living that life of love and being demonstrative of that. And that's why I think that he's a really good role model for people, because I think people have an expectation of Jesus.
Right.
That again, he's just going to return and fix everything no matter what side of the fence you're on.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe we're going to go to where he is. I don't,
Right.
but again, that's another show.
Yeah.
But no, he's a wonderful role model, and
Yeah.
what I think we could all strive to be, just unconditional love and peace.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the thing about it is a lot of people look at Jesus and, oh my God, well that's the Son of God and he's on some pedestal that we can never achieve. But St. Francis was born right there in Assisi. He came from a family just like we all did. He wasn't the Son of God, although I believe all of us are children of God, sons and daughters of God. But what I mean is, people didn't have that perspective about him. They saw who he was. They knew who he was. They knew where he grew up. They knew who his father and mother was. And his life had such an impact on the world that it shows you that we can, he was one person. And as I said, one person in medieval Italy, where the world was not connected in the way the world is connected now. And he changed it. He transformed it. One life created a spark that spread throughout Europe. And if more of us could be like that and models like that, I mean, if one person can do it, if a bunch of us got together, we can have such a powerful impact on this world because, I'll connect with somebody in my community, somebody else with their community, and it becomes like an exponential fire that could be started just by love alone.
Right, right. And that's part of what we're trying to do is just connect people.
Yeah.
And then because when you come into Spirit Fest, it's a really high vibe, and
Right.
it might be a good opportunity just to be in that energy, and then you can
Yeah.
take that energy and share it with people.
Yeah.
And it is hard when you're in a bad place. You just need to kind of get to even before
Right.
you can kind of accelerate and. In this day and age, it's just harder to do
Yeah,
that
but
sometimes.
sometimes that's why things that you have built and created, these communities are so powerful and important,
Yeah,
because sometimes we're in those places, we sink into a hole, and we're by ourselves. But when we have like-minded friends and people that we can talk to, or people that can help us, or if they're in a high vibe and we get into their community, their vibe alone will help to raise our vibration,
right.
that can be a very, very powerful component. And so, kudos to you for building such beautiful communities in so many cities, not only around Florida, but I know you do it in Memphis and you do it in
Mhm.
Virginia Beach now. So, I
Yes.
mean, you are starting these little sparks all over too, with these energetic communities of Spirit Fest.
And it's been interesting where we go. We
Right.
just go where spirit leads, basically. And we want to go where there's a need, where there's not a lot else going on too.
Right.
And then we just realize, and the people that come, just the right people seem to come.
Yeah.
And then the younger people too. I love when multiple generations come,
Yep.
like, a child, the parents, and then their parents. And or people that are just starting, and I'm at the admission table a lot, and I'd like to hear the comments, because sometimes people will come up and say, are you the one that does this show? And I always, there's always that second, right?
Yeah. What
Why?
do you?
Who wants to know? But that's what they just say. This is what I experienced today, or this is how much this meant to me. And again, it's just exactly why we do this, is just to be able to give people the resources that they need to be able to lift themselves up, because
Right.
there's so much great work out there like you're doing.
Thank you.
And then, that's what we want to do, is just help share the connections. So, through our website, through social media. So social media can be used for good.
It can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm really starting to learn the algorithms there. If you watch a video and it's something like a puppy being reunited with its mother, or, a moose that's getting saved from the middle of the road or something like that, the very next reel you're going to see is an ad to buy something. Um,
Really?
yeah.
Because you're in a state where you're.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they know
Ah.
they know what they're doing. And I
Yeah.
used to say I can always tell AI, you can't tell anymore.
Right.
So this is a good time to really be discerning,
Right.
and really just choose, what we're giving our energy to. But again, another conversation. So I see we've got just about 3 minutes here, so we do need to kind of wrap up. So is there a final thought that you'd like to leave with everybody?
Oh, final thought is just, you know, knowing that, sometimes we feel alone in the world, but we're not, and there are communities out there that can help assist us in our journey to wholeness and health and happiness and peace and love. And, we often do find them in connection with others, so if you're not out there and experiencing, or know the options that are out there for your healing, whether it be a meditation, whether it be a prayer group, whether it be something like Spirit Fest, where you can find a bunch of healers and modalities and practitioners all together, then, make yourself accessible. Get out there
Hmm.
and see, we don't know what will work for us unless we give it a try.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so if we don't know what's available, how can we give it a try?
Right. So try something new.
Try something new. Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty of resources, definitely. There's definitely a huge community for you. So thank you very much, Anthony, for your time this evening, and
My
your
pleasure. Thank you.
website for people who would like to. Oh, we didn't talk about your tours. Go to the website and look at the amazing travel that Anthony does and the
Thank you.
places that he's taking people. Really awesome. Egypt during the eclipse, right?
Correct. I'm taking the people. I take people to Egypt every September, but we are also going for the eclipse next year that's happening in the end of July into August. Take people to India, Nepal, Bali, Thailand,
Wow.
Greece, Italy, Peru. We're putting on the calendar next year, so we got a lot of places coming up.
Oh, that all sounds awesome. But come see Anthony and me
Thank you.
at Spirit Fest Jacksonville, August 8th and 9th. So Anthony's website, anthonyprofeta.com, and spiritfestusa.com for more information. Specifically, the Jacksonville show would be a tab at the top. You do buy tickets through the fairgrounds. This is one of the unusual things, but it is less expensive if you buy them at the door. So, little insider info. And there are plenty. So, nobody will miss out. We look forward to seeing you. And thank you for joining us in the sanctuary
Thank you,
tonight.
everybody,
We
and
hope to
thank
see
you,
you next
Marielle.
week. Thanks again.
Bye bye.
Thank you for spending this time with me here on the Sanctuary Network. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Transformation Network as we gather to share stories, wisdom, and practices that remind us of something essential. Sanctuary isn't just a place you go, it's a space you create in your heart, your home, and your daily life. I hope today's conversation sparks something in you, a sense of belonging, a new idea, or simply a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. If this touched you, please share it with someone who could use a little light. Together we can grow this circle of sanctuary and inspire a ripple of healing around the world. And don't forget, the journey continues at spiritfestusa.com, thesanctuarynetwork.com, and naturalwellnessexpo.com. And of course, every week right here on Transformation Network. Until next time, may you be well, may you be inspired, and may you live fully in sanctuary.